Hey gang, welcome. My name's Dan Nelson, and today I am touching up a painting, a wedding painting. You might have seen me doing this 3 days ago now on Saturday night. Um, I did all of this work live at the reception, but this bride and groom are local, so I brought the painting home, and I couldn't find them at the end of the reception, so it kind of worked out perfect. Anyway, I'm glad for the opportunity to touch it up, and the main thing I'm going to be doing today is touching up the portraits. And I thought about doing this part, what I'm doing right here. I thought about doing it without you watching, and then I decided, no. This is I want you to see this tip. Pretty much any time, almost every time that I retouch an oil painting. So let me put this in context just a little bit. Nowadays, I would say about 50% of my oil paintings are done in one day. The other 50% I bring back to the studio and finish them, a subsequent day. So this pertains to the 50%. That's my rough estimate. The 50% that I do on a second day. And as I like to say, I kind of throw myself a bone because I'm a little disappointed always that I have to do a second day on a painting. I know I'm making a lot of noise with these brushes. Forgive me for a minute. So I throw myself a little treat to say, okay, as a consolation prize for the fact that you're having to invest a second portion of a second day on this painting. Here's the treat I'm going to give you. I understand this is my internal dialogue going on. And the treat is that I get to, mind you, I get to glaze the entire painting with a glaze, with whatever colors I want. Okay. Now, why is that a consolation prize? Why is that happy? Why does it make me happy to have the opportunity to glaze a painting? Well, so glad you asked. Couple reasons. One is because it gives me one last chance to do super fine or refined or super accurate color corrections. Okay, that's one reason. Number two is because, this is the way I like to say it, because ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. Okay, let me say that again. Ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. In other words, every color looks better if it's transparent, if it has a transparent glaze on top of it. Every color looks better if it has a transparent glaze on top of it. Some of you smart people will then say, well then, why don't you finish all of your paintings with a transparent glaze? Good question. Glad you're on the ball. Glad you asked me that. Why don't I then finish all my paintings, because I don't, with a transparent glaze? If all colors look better with a transparent glaze on top of them. Here's why I don't. Because the variety that you get by combining transparent glazes and opaque brings you variety. Variety trumps transparency. Are you with me? Variety trumps almost everything. That's an exaggerated statement, but I'm just going to leave it there for now. This painting suddenly looks better because it's got a transparent glaze or glazes. In this case, I used oxide red, which is a brown, of course, very much like burnt sienna, oxide red, and a little bit of Indian yellow. Now, it's way too intense right now, so the next thing I'm going to do is come in here and remove. And again, some of you smart people will say, me. Those are grumpy smart people, you understand? Some of you grumpy smart people will say, me. You will say, what? If you're going to take it off, why did you put it on in the first place? Now, I must add that those are grumpy, ignorant people are saying that, okay? So and nobody listening to this right now, I'm sure, fits that description. So let me answer that question. If I'm just going to take it off, why did I put it on in the first place? And that question can only be asked by somebody who doesn't, I don't know. Well, for one thing, they've never refinished fine furniture. Okay? Fine furniture is not finished with a paintbrush. Fine furniture is finished by hand rubbing. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So by doing this, you get that same beautiful patina that you get on a $4,000 dining room table as opposed to a $400 dining room table, okay? The good furniture is always hand rubbed because of the patina. Okay, so a little more technical answer is, why do you put it on if you're going to take it off? Because I'm not taking it all off, okay? In fact, the some of that glaze, it acts very much like a stain. That's why furniture comes to mind. It acts very much like a stain, and it actually stays in the little cracks. Let me zoom in here and see if you can see it. I'm not sure that you can, but there's a little bit of impasto. There's a little bit of thick paint up here, just here and there, and it's got brush streaks in it. It's got grooves in it because of my brush, right? So when I put that glaze on it a few minutes ago, it went into the cracks. And what I'm wiping off is it's leaving the paint still in the cracks. And I know you probably can't see it, but my demonstration with my fingers will probably have to suffice. Okay, suddenly I'm happier with this painting. It's warmer, and I like it better. I was debating really strongly before I started this video whether I wanted to do this warm glaze or not, because up until this point it's been a decidedly cool painting, and I'm okay with cool paintings. But anyway, as you can see, I decided to glaze it, and now I'm glad that I did, because now it's talking to me. now it's making me smile. Whew, glad I did that. Okay, now let's get to the real subject of this video, which is correcting these portraits. Now, as you can see, they're pretty darn small. This woman's face is about the size of a thumbprint, and the guy's face even smaller than that. Now, can I turn this, and I hope you don't get too much glare from my window? Yeah, that'll do, because I really want to talk to you for a minute. And man, I hope some emerging fledgling student portrait painters watch this. If you're not a portrait painter, but you know somebody who is, and they're just starting, please, 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 I beg of you, send them to this video. Send this video to them, because they need to hear it. Several things. Forgive me while I lecture for a bit. Number one, if you're a fledgling portrait painter, you need to understand. Hang on, my granddaughter just opened my door and then left it open. So hang on, let me close that. She saw that I was broadcasting and dutifully backed out of the room, but she didn't quite get the door latched. Okay. If you're a fledgling portrait painter, you need to understand this concept that I call portrait blindness. Portrait blindness. It is an affliction that hits everybody. And what it means is, after staring at your painting, your portrait painting or drawing for a very short amount of time, 15, 20, 25 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, certainly often 15, guaranteed by the time I'm making these numbers up, you can tell, 25, you are blind as a blankety blank bat, because you can no longer see the mistakes in your painting. That's what I call portrait blindness, okay? Now, in order to alleviate, get over, press through, correct this issue called portrait blindness, there's several things that you need to do. The most traditional of all, and I think this is what most painters have done for centuries, is sleep on it. Work on your portrait for 25 minutes. You're not done. Hang it up. Do something else. Go to bed. Get up the next morning. Because we've all had this experience, haven't we? You come back to your painting the next day, and typically, often you go, ah! The American colloquial, oh my God! That's the ubiquitous American outburst. Why? Because you're seeing it with fresh eyes. Now, the problem with that approach is it takes a long time. You can, according to my theory, you can work on your portrait for 25 minutes every day. That's going to take a lot of days. If your portrait's going to take 10 hours, I mean, just that's 20 days. That's a month of painting, which that's what some people do and throughout history. Okay, so let me give you a couple faster ones than that. Another approach, and I think I've got some over here. Well, here, I'll turn you around since you... Here's my medium messy studio. Here it is. Yes, I have here some dividers and then a fancy... So let me bring you back over here. I'm in my upstairs studio, by the way. I escape up here often when all 4 grandchildren are in the house. This is a measuring device. In fact, it's proportional dividers. Artists use them to do live portraits. And I'm not going to give you the how to, and I don't want to get into that. I'll do that another time. Thank you for loving my paints. So this is a measuring device. So you hold this up either to the photograph or to the live model. And if the live model is, if the live model is this big and the reproduction size is this big, then you use that. And you just measure, 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 measure. That's one way to alleviate, get over the hurdle of portrait blindness, is to measure. Here's just a trickier version made by, it's called a proportioner. Oh, it doesn't say who it's made by. I got this from Jerry's Autorama, and it might be a prototype, so forgive me for showing it to you. But it basically does the same thing. It's just a little bit more high-techy. Very, very clever tool, by the way. So for those of you who really want to get into it. Again, the most old-fashioned traditional is to measure like this, holding up your brush, using your thumb, blah, 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 stuff like that. Okay, all of those tricks, anything that's measuring is to help you get over portrait blindness. Let me give you a couple other tips. So 1 is sleep on it. 2 is measure the heck out of it. Number 3, this one will surprise you, because I'm sure, because it surprised me. Never heard anybody else teach this. I discovered this completely by accident in 2012 when I was doing portraits on the parking lot 16 hours a day in Grand Rapids, Michigan for Art Prize. Google it. 2012 and 2013. I was doing portraits. You can see my Art Prize project. Just look for it just Google it, Dan Nelson Art Prize, something you'll probably find it, a video. But the point is portraits from my phone, from pictures. Here's what I discovered, that I could do 5 or even 10 portraits way better than I could do 1. So this is really good for those of you who are students, wannabe portrait painters. This is one of the best insights I feel like I can offer to the art world. It's like, eureka, I've discovered. Because who else does 10 portraits in one day? I mean, other than the crazy and insanely good old Chinese guys in Manhattan. I'll just leave it at that. You see a lot of people doing portraits at fairs and festivals. Nobody beats the old Chinese guys in Manhattan, New York. Insanely good. Like, make me sick. Hang up, break my brushes, go home. And they're that good. I asked him one time, how do you guys get so good? He said through his Chinese accent, he said, oh, easy. We start when we're 5. And we do portraits all day, every day for our entire lives. So that, my friend, okay, I guess that's the secret number 4, is be the old Chinese guy that does nothing but portraits all day, every day, his whole life. Okay, I digress. Who else does 5 or 10 portraits? Here's the thing. Think about it. You get portrait blindness, which means you're blind to the mistakes and the errors in your portrait. You can do it for about 20, 25 minutes, and then you're blind as a bat, okay? Here's a thought. Instead of doing 1 portrait, do 5 or even 10. And I did this, literally 10. You spend 15 minutes on a portrait. You're not even hardly, you're still just measuring, just barely getting started. Set it aside. Portrait number 2, 10 minutes. Barely get started. Set it aside. Number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Guess what? You go back to portrait number 1, you have completely fresh eyes because the other 9 portraits have completely erased portrait blindness. Very, very, whatever, clever, key, good insight. Okay, now let's get down to what I'm going to do today. Here's another key for portrait blindness. And all of you, if you're a portrait, I beg, 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 beg of you, do not ignore this. A mirror, just a mirror. When you hold a mirror up to your painting, so if the painting's back here, you hold a mirror and look at it this way. You understand? I've got it somewhere, but I'll just let you trust me on that. Now, for those of you who have a smartphone, if you have a smartphone, you also have a mirror, right? Because you hold your camera, you take a picture, boom, you go into your photo editing app, and you hit, in this case, what Droid calls transform, and you flip horizontal, and that right there, whoops. Let me get, are you able to see that? That right there is a mirror image of my painting. Bingo. So if you have a smartphone, you have a mirror in your smartphone. I hope you caught that. So here's what I want to show you. Here's let's now get down to brass tacks. I've taken this to another step, and partly so that I can show you, I've printed this out so I can show you. So let me show you what I've done here. Can I? No, I have to hold it. Okay. So this is my painting from Saturday night, and I'm going to work on touching it up today. Let me cover this part up. Here is a photograph of my painting, and here is the original photograph of the bride. Now that does not help with portrait blindness, just taking the picture, but it does help because seeing the image, you know, larger or smaller helps you see mistakes. But here's the real kicker. Then in my photo app, by the way, I used an app called any kind of what do you call this when you tile things together like this? I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Senior moment. Here's the main thing. I take this image and I flop it. Now this is a mirror image, and in this mirror image, I can see my errors, my mistakes, my offnesses better. I can see them better here than I can here. So here's what I do, and this is not hard at all. This is the thing I want to emphasize to you. I have here 7 different modifications that I've made that I want to make. I look at this and say, oh, I need to nudge this part of her forehead out a tiny bit. So I make a mark and I number it. I number them all. And again, I know this looks very technical, but it took 5 minutes maybe to do this. And then hang on, if you're still watching, here's the next step. Because it's difficult, here's my painting, right? So it's hard to go from this to this because it's facing the wrong way. So while I'm still working on it, I take another 5 minutes and I transfer all of these markings to this image. See, I don't mess up, I don't mark the photograph, I mark the painting. So here I have a picture, in this case, a blow up of my portrait with 7 different modifications. And here's what I'm going to do next is I simply, what's number 1? Oh, cut in her neck a little bit. Easy. Do it. Number 2, little tiny bit out on her forehead. Easy. I'm going to use small brushes to do this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All real simple, and that'll take me a grand total of 10 minutes probably to make those changes. And then I believe, at least for today, I will be spot on this portrait. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the groom. Now the groom, I didn't spend as much time on him the other night, So here again, I have actually a total of, including his shirt collar, I have a total of 13 little changes. Again, only took me 5, 6, 7 minutes to make these changes, to look here. And why is it I can see it? It's because it's a mirror image of my painting. You see, I see it with fresh eyes. So I marked 13 things and I transfer those 13 things to here. And in just a little while, I'm going to take in 15 or 20 minutes, I'll have all of these changes affected here, and I believe that portrait will be spot on. Okay, so I'm going to take a little break right here, and then I'm going to come back and you can watch me do some of these changes. Just one more thing. Let me make one more comment before I go, because I still hear student portrait artists making this mistake. Every adjustment that you make on your portrait is one of 4 things. Either a line, a point, a line, an edge in your painting either needs to be higher, lower, to the left, or to the right. That is the kind of language you use in your inner dialogue when you're trying to correct a portrait. You do not, I repeat, do not say things like, well, her cheek looks a little pudgy, or her smile is too big, or his eye seems a little. That is not artist language. Get that. Don't say anatomical parts unless you're dialoguing with somebody who's not an artist. Then you can say I. But your internal dialogue, you don't say eye, cheek, nose, mouth, lip. No. You say this line right here needs to go up a 32nd of an inch. This triangle right here needs to go left or right a 16th of an inch. There's only 4 dimensions: up, down, left, or right. There's no pudginess. There's no his nose is too big. His nose is too round. His cheek is too flat. Eliminate. That is stupid talk. Portrait painters do not talk that way. That's the way non-artists talk. And if you're having inner dialogue that still includes anatomical parts, you are not yet arriving into the world of a portrait painter. Because what you say is this line, this edge right here needs to go up, down, left, or right. Or, of course, at an angle. Yes, of course. Down a 16th and to the left a 32nd. Okay? But that's the only kind of dialogue you use is up, down, left, right. Now, of course, I'm not talking here about color and flesh tone. That's a completely different subject. What I'm talking about here is capturing a likeness. And this is the kind of dialogue you need to be having inside your brain. You don't name any anatomical parts, because that just screws up with your thinking. If you say teeth, you're screwed. If you say eyebrow, you say this mark right here, this edge, this line. Because when you say eyebrow, you're talking about the top of the eyebrow or the bottom of the eyebrow. Now, you might not even know. It might be both. In which case you say this line needs to move up a 32nd of an inch, and this line needs to move up 3/64. Are you with? And again, if you don't know numbers like that, that's all right. That's right. But you have to. Yeah, it's up, down, left, right. That's the only thing you're saying, and you don't say anatomical parts. You say this edge, this line, this point, this dot, this triangle, and so forth goes up, down. So again, when you look at let me zoom in here real quick. So I know this is repeating, but just want to make sure you get this. All of my markings here have little arrows. See this? There's a little arrow there. I'm not sure you can see it, so let me try to get close to you. You see all the arrows? Those are directional arrows. That means this needs to go up, down, left, right. That's all. Okay, I'm going to take a little break, and I'll be back in just a little while. And you can, if you want, watch me do. Welcome back. Hello, Shannon. I just seeing your comment right now. I don't know if you're still with us or not, or if you'll see it. How many hours a day do I paint? Not enough. I wish I could. Well, yesterday I didn't paint it at all, but I did a whole bunch of illustrations, so that counts. I wish I could paint all day, every day. I mean, the happy part of my day is when I'm painting. There's way too much infrastructure, business, websites, Photoshop, meetings with clients, all kinds of stuff that interrupt that stream. Can't complain, still love my job, just wish I could do more of it. Okay, now let's start really zeroing in here. if I'm assuming that either you saw or you can go back and see where I explained this, and I'm about to start using it. And I would tape it up here, except that the painting has just a brand new coat of glaze on it, so it can't. Okay, step number 1, cut in her throat a little bit. Let me see. I'm trying to, of course, here trying to match colors that are already on the painting from the other night. Not close enough. Hang on. Not close enough. It needs to be a little browner, deader color. Okay, that's done. Number 1 is done. Number 2, and as you see, by the way, this is in my teaching, I'm always ragging on tongue painting, right? I'm always making fun of, you know what tongue painting is, right? It's where you get that death control grip on your brush, even like this, and you stick out your tongue. Okay? And I'm always railing against the evils of tongue painting. And yet, look at me. Here I am, tongue painting to the max. Okay, 1, 2, and 3 are already done. Number 4, oh, this one's a little trickier. I need to move her earring back about 1/16 of an inch. And her earring, as you might imagine, is a nice, thick glob of impasto titanium white. So I need to have a knife here. And I've got a drawer that's stuck. So I'm gonna fight with that later when you're not looking. Couple things. In fact, here's something I've used before. This is a tool from an etching tool. And it's just basically a curved blade. When you do scratching on your painting like this, which is totally legal, I mean, go ahead, man. Scratch away. When you have to make corrections, you can't just paint over impasto. Does that make sense to you? You can't just paint on top of it. You have to scrape it off, which is what I've just done. That's how easy it was. You cannot, let me make clear, you cannot do this with a traditional number 11 X-Acto knife, because that point will gouge into the canvas. You must use a curved blade, which this, I hope you can see, has a curved blade. If you don't have one of those, then somewhere in your life, this is a plain old Swiss Army knife. See that curved blade? So that will work, and I've used that many times to scrape paintings. So the task here is adjustment number 4 and 5. I'm moving your hair back and moving your earring back. Now, in order to make this look not like a patch job, I'm actually, before I do anything light, I'm coming in and doing some dark, like drawing around the new hairline. I'm moving her hair back, I'm moving her earring back. So I'm drawing with a dark line because I don't want it to look like a patch job. And now I'm going to mix up a flesh tone. Again, trying to match what's already there. So all of this that I'm doing right now is, in a sense, cheating. It's like the portrait painter's dirty little secret, because we don't, and I don't think I'm alone in doing this kind of stuff, we don't want you to know that we would ever do anything like this, because this violates the image that we're trying to convey, that we did all this. Oh, there's a name. There's an Italian name. Forgive me, I'll think of it here or look it up in a bit. We want it to look as though we did it all freely, easily. Oh, it's such a great name, and it's such a great Italian word. It refers to how courtiers, members of the king's court, were required to behave in the king's presence. That is, they were required to act easy. They were required to have an easy, carefree manner. A sprezzatura might be it. Forgive me for not. Anyway, and ironically, that term that was invented for the king and his courtiers has come down to apply to refer to how we like to paint with the appearance, and I'd have to look it up now to make sure I've got the right word, with the appearance of nonchalance, the appearance of effortless. We want our paintings to appear as they were done like, oh, easy. And I'm completely cheating here because this is not sprezzatura, but I'm trying to make it look like it is. And again, forgive me, I'm not sure I'm saying the right word. I would have to look it up. One of you might be able to tell me. Is it sprezzatura, S-P-R-E-T-Z, or is it esprezzatura? I can't remember. I need to learn that because if I'm going to say things online, I should really know if I'm saying the right word. Okay, so just again, quick adjustment to her hair here. So I need to widen this blonde streak that comes down. There. I think now I'm going to add a little bit more of a highlight right down here. Okay, so I'm done with 4 and 5. Now number 6. Oh, very simple. I need to add a slightly dark line in her hair. I need to extend this line right here. And number 7, I'm going to add a slight darkness up here. And 7. And that's it. I'm now finished with the girl. The bride is finished. And yeah, I think that looks a lot like her. And it's very, let me pick you up just for a second, give you a earthquake ride. But I'll let you come in here where you can see it with not too much glare, I hope. Okay. There you go. So that's the bride. That's, if you're looking at this on a large screen, you have to understand, you're seeing a huge blow up of the paintings. Again, no bigger than my thumbprint. And it's crazy doing portraits this quick. Hang on. Okay, I don't think I want necessarily to show you making all those. Again, here are my notes on the groom's face. I have more adjustments here. I have a total of 13. And here they are transferred to the correct facing image. I make the first notes here on the mirror image, and then transfer all those notes straight from there to there, so that then I can go from here to here. And I think that's, I've shown you enough. I demonstrated it with the bride. One last thing that I will do after I'm quite happy with the likeness, I've got all the lines in the right place. I'll take one last look here today at flesh tones and add just any tiny bits of correction that I deem necessary in the realm of flesh tones. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'll do that last. And again, I will definitely apply those strokes. I won't be doing tongue painting. I will do that. Is it sprezzatura? You know, I'm driving myself nuts. Hang on. We are going to look this up. We're going to look this up right now. Sprezzatura. Oh, my phone is not online because it's connected to my phone. Okay, hang on just a second. We're still working on it. I want you to know if I'm telling you the truth or not. S-P-R-E-T-Z-A Z. Nothing wrong with me that being able to type wouldn't help. Sprezzatura. Okay, there is such a thing. I'll turn you around so you can follow me in this silly endeavor. Yes, that's it. Sprezzatura. The definition here: a studied carelessness. I'm sorry, I'm too far from the sound. A studied carelessness, especially as a characteristic quality or style of art or literature. Okay, so there you go. Your word of the day. It's my word. Maybe you already knew it. Sprezzatura, or sprezzatura in English accent. That means that appearance of course, I did this with my left hand, falling backwards, with one hand tied behind my back. It was easy. Everything I do is easy. Look, my painting is easy. And a great example of this, by the way, is John Singer Sargent, who said, start with a broom, finish with a mop, or start with a mop, finish with a broom. Start the size of his brushes. He wanted everything to look as though he just went slap dash, which of course, compared to me, he did. So everything you just saw me doing violates the principle of sprezzatura, but I want it to look as though it was accomplished. So, and I think I've done that here. My image is carefree enough that you can't see that I made those little adjustments. Okay, good enough. Thanks, guys, for watching. I might broadcast again later today. I'm not sure about that. If so, I'll see you later.